Welcome to Cool2Craft. I'm Tiffany Windsor.
And I'm Heidi Borchers.
Today we are celebrating Halloween.
Yay!
What are you creating?
I have a really cool, it's kind of funky, it's a necklace with some fabric beads and drinking straws.
And Candace Jedrowitz is creating an articulated skeleton from polymer clay.
Very cool. What are you making?
Well, I'm into celebrations these days, so I'm doing a little table setting. I'm going to show you how to create a napkin from fabric with a little napkin ring, and it can be used for Halloween or the fall.
Okay.
Don't go away. We'll be right back. We are celebrating Halloween. It's Happy Halloween. Hey, I love your costume.
Well, this is it. This is all you're going to get. I'm not huge on Halloween because my birthday is the day before Halloween. So all through my life, our mother,
It's your mother if there's a problem.
Yeah. I always had a costume birthday party. I always wanted just to have like a dress-up birthday party, but it was always costumes. So I'm just not huge on Halloween, but I love what I made today because this would be what I would wear for Halloween.
So you're rebelling today.
Yeah. But this helped me to get back into the Halloween spirit.
Was it therapy for you?
It was. It often does that. Doesn't creativity do that? It's therapy for us.
And what's so fun about several of the projects that we're making today is that we're using fabric.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have brought fabric into a necklace.
Yes, and it's happy. For this project, I'm using the Aleene's Fabric Fusion Permanent Dry Cleanable Fabric Adhesive. I really love the way that it works. And I've got some fabric here. Now, to mark your fabric, you're going to take a clear ruler. Remember, I love my clear ruler because I can see underneath. And just line it up, take a pencil, and just draw your line. And then just move it, take a pencil, draw your line. And this is probably about 3/4 of an inch. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put some of the Aleene's Fabric Fusion right on the line. Take a little cardboard for a squeegee and just squeegee it right on the fabric. Then I cut it out, just right on the line. And then we're going to use a piece of drinking straw that's about the same, a little bit smaller than the 3/4 inch. Put a little bit of glue on the end. Put the drinking straw right into the glue. And then just roll it. I roll it about an inch, and then I go back with a little bit more glue. And squeegee it on, and then finish rolling it. And there you have your bead. You can make your beads in all kinds of colors, and however many you want. Now also on this necklace, I made some little tassels. I wanted to show you how to make the tassels. We're just going to use, again, some embroidery floss. Take 3 fingers, wrap it around. Oh, maybe 15-20 times. And then I just take, first, let's see, we tie it up here. Just tie just a knot right at the top. like so. I still have all my threads together. And then I take another little piece and put a little bit of glue up here at the top. And just wrap that second string really tight, and if you can catch that end in that first wrap or two, that'd be great. When I get to the end, I take my end and kind of go back through to get it in so it'll just kind of self-knot itself. And then the glue that I had on there is going to help hold it. I just trim off the excess pieces and then trim the loop, and then make sure that all your pieces are even, like so. Now I also loved when I set it all out on my tray, I love the flat marbles. The black ones they just spoke to me that they needed to be on this. So what I did, I'm like, okay, how can I hang these? I can't drill them. So what I did was I turned them upside down. I put some glue right on the marble. I put my embroidery floss that I'm going to thread my whole necklace with. So you have to kind of figure out where you're going to want them. And then I cut a little tiny piece of fabric to match. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's usually kind of an oval. Make sure you get a little bit of glue right on that embroidery floss and just put it right into the glue and let it dry. And that was the way that I was able to use the flat marbles. The same thing would go with any of the letters that you're using, because they don't have anything that you can hang them from. So you do the same thing, put some glue on the back and fabric, and you sandwich that thread, the embroidery floss, in between. So let's take a look at the necklace, and you can see all the different things that I put on it. I've had all kinds of glass beads. I put letters. I put there's a Blumenthal Lansing. They have some wonderful new alphabet letters. I put the H, and basically I just put happy. I thought it just looked happy, and you could just it's kind of a quirky thing because it's Happy Halloween, so I just put happy. I used different kinds of letters that on the side there. I did also take some wooden balls and just threaded the embroidery floss to cover them and just tied them on. And there's some hoops that I found actually in the jewelry section, the little black rings. They kind of look like they look like a curtain ring to me, but I actually found them in the jewelry department. I found them in black, and I just tied them on with some embroidery floss. And when you go to finish your necklace, it's all on a embroidery floss and just tie it in a knot at the end, and you have a fun necklace that's going to be fun to wear for the Happy Halloween season.
All right, I have two questions for you.
Okay, one?
Okay, the first one is, it's really cool how you use the Aleene's Fabric Fusion almost to stop the fraying. Is that why you squeegeed it on in the first step?
It did.
But you cut right through it while it was still wet.
Well, because it doesn't gum up the scissors. I've never had it gum up the scissors. It dries really quickly and it holds. It's a fabulous glue for fabric.
The second question is, let's see, what was I going to ask? Oh, you were talking about how you had the flat back marbles and you put the fabric to the back, but you're actually gluing it on a length of embroidery floss. I'm very talking with my hands today. This length of embroidery floss. But I was a little confused because do you start stringing the beads and then you actually have to glue that in place?
Right. You're gonna, you do a portion and then decide where exactly you want your flat marbles, and then glue it in place, and then put your beads up to there, and then let it dry a little bit. But you then
Up to there means to there.
Yeah. Up to where you're.
So you're stringing this portion.
Right.
And then when you get to this point,
I put it on.
You're gluing it on.
Let it set up for a little bit.
Then you add more beads.
But I found that the Aleene's Fabric Fusion worked fairly quickly, and I didn't have to wait too long. Because once you're making a necklace, you get really excited and you just want to get it done. So I didn't have to wait too long. So as soon as I let it set up a little bit, I did my next section down to the next flat marble, did the same thing, glued it, and then just went around. I think I have 3 on this particular necklace.
So part of it is pre-constructed, part of it's being glued as you go.
Basically, it really was kind of glue as you go. I mean, you're gonna make all your beads first.
That's the pre-construction part.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I made them just before I made it. So, isn't this happy?
Mm-hmm.
I really like it.
Happy.
Yes, very cool.
Coming up next, Candace Jedrowitz. Did you know that Halloween is her very, 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 very favorite day of the year?
Candace's?
Yes.
I would imagine that it would be.
So what she's creating today is an articulated skeleton from polymer clay.
Articulated.
Hi, Candace.
Hi, Candace.
Hello, my darlings. I've been expecting you. Today I'm going to show you how to create your own little person in miniature. You can pose her any way you want. She could be raising her hand in class. Oh! I know the answer. I know the answer. Or she could be a graceful ballerina. Maybe. Let's see. Yes. Do 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 do. Hold on to your hats, because here we go. This is how I measured out the clay for the different skeleton parts. And the easiest part about this skeleton is that every piece is a bead. This is the skull. And the teeth are made just by pushing them in. If you have a little bit of room, you can make the bottom part of the jaw. And I use something flat to make the eyes because I like to put jewels in them. And just a tiny mark for a nose. And then I will start the beading behind the jaw. I'll start the hole, the bead hole, and come up through the top like that. That's the skull bead. This is what you need to make the chest cavity. Of course, it wants to jump around. The chest cavity needs to be narrowed right in the center. And it also needs to be kind of sunglasses shaped. This is the bottom of the rib cage and this is the top. Before I bend it into place and add the other piece, which is part of the spine, I'll make my rib marks. There don't have to be a lot of them. You can make as many as you want, little ribs. And then it bends around in kind of an oval shape. And that's where this piece attaches. This is the bead that makes this part the chest and spine. Keep your shape as much as possible. And remember that the upper part of the chest is wider than the lower part. Now you can smooth and blend that on. That works pretty good. And then it gets a hole down right through there. This is the pelvis. The pelvis, remember, is kind of a triangle and almost a bicycle seat, really. It has the two pieces that come up toward the back that make up your hips. And they have holes, big holes, that are part of the makeup of the skeleton. But what you want to do here, since when your wire goes down through the head, through the rib cage, through all of your spine pieces, it comes out here. If I made a hole right in the middle, the top of my legs would touch. I want the holes to be on the sides. So I start near the center and go out to the side. Start near the center, angle out toward the side. And that's a pelvis. The hands and the feet are pretty easy. They're just shaped like, kind of like that. And then you want to push down for a thumb. You want to go all the way back. Make the separations at the ends of the hand. And you can make it longer again if it squishes down. And I'll do that on both sides and then make the hole down toward the wrist. The foot is the same except you don't cut the thumb. And after it's fired, there's my little jewels, and I did a background color of brown felt pen and used a fine purple felt pen to define all of the details. The other way that I used the brown was the top and bottom of each bone to break up the white for the skeleton. I'm going to start with a piece of 14-inch wire that I folded in half, and I'll go down through the top of the skull. And you can bend that down if you're going to do a hat or put hair on it or something. And then you'll go down through probably 2 vertebrae beads. Whoa, he's jumping around. Down through the chest. Okay, that looks fine to me. Add 3 more. You can add as many as you like. I think it would be interesting to see a really long skeleton. 1 more. Always make more vertebrae beads than you need. You also need 2 because the lower legs have a small bead in between them. That looks good. Now remember when we made the pelvis, we put 2 holes that go out to the sides. Because I want these to be double wires too, I already have a 12-inch wire that I folded in half and put down through there. Go on, little wire, go through. There we go. Try to keep your wires from twisting. You don't want to give yourself any more trouble than you need. Alright, that's looking pretty good. So let's put on some leg bones. Remember the kneecap. Go on through. You can do it. Both of you. Go in there. Yay! And the lower leg bone. Of course there are 2, but No one's going to notice that you didn't make 2 lower leg bones. And that gives you some nice joints right there. And you can see what I mean about the brown breaking up all the white in the bones. Now go down through the top of your foot. Which foot is this? All right. It is the right foot. And you want to bend that down. Leave yourself a tiny little bit of play in there. You don't want it so tight that you won't be able to bend the leg. And wrap the extra wire around the ankle joint. Okay, and the rest of that will wrap around all the way. Now for the arms, I have another piece of 12-inch wire that I folded in half, and I'm going to go behind the neck and you can go a little bit farther than you need to go if you want to be able to fit the other side through, and it should be crimped pretty small so that it will go easily through the hole. You can also wrap this around the neck, the vertebrae. And anytime you have a situation like this where there's wire, you want to pull very gently because you do not want to break your clay. All right, very good. So, 2 arm bones. No vertebrae bone between the 2. You don't really need it for the hands. Let's see, which is the... This is the left hand. Go down through the front. See, I marked on both sides because I might want to position this hand behind his head or in front of his chest like that, and you want to make sure that it still looks like a hand. Do the same thing that you did with the foot and wrap it around the wrist. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? Now here he is, all put together, sitting a little too casually in a chair. Well, we'll have to fix that, won't we? It's time for disco. Sorry, Bob, you're going dancing. I hope that you're inspired to try something like this, and I hope that if you do, I get to see it. Email me, Candace, at Cool2Craft.com with your photos and stories. Bye now. Have a pleasant tomorrow.
So as I mentioned, Halloween is Candace's favorite day of the year.
I knew that. I don't know. She never said it, but I just knew it.
Well, she loves to celebrate Day of the Dead. You see a lot of skulls in her crafting, and it is a very positive thing. There's
It's a celebration.
A celebration in every part of what she does.
Right.
Pretty cool.
So what are you doing today?
Speaking of celebrations, we have had a lot of girlfriends stop by recently to the studio. So I'm into this tea party, and not necessarily traditional tea party themes, but let's get together, have lunch in Heidi's studio. So I'm into the mood of creating a theme for the parties. So I thought, wouldn't it be great to take the same fabric that Heidi used for her beads and turn it into a little table setting?
She would be on there. She took some of my leftover beads.
I know. Wait until you see this. For this project, I am using the Aleene's Fabric Fusion. Now this is a permanent dry cleanable fabric adhesive. I'm also using the Aleene's Peel and Stick sheets. These are no-sew, permanent, and washable. I have cut my fabric for the napkin to the size that I want, and I have ironed over the edges. And the next thing that I want to do is apply my glue. This is my wet glue. And I just used a little tab that goes on a file folder to use as my squeegee to squeegee the glue. This just helps to give you a nice flat application of the glue. And I'm just going to turn that edge over and press it into place. So be sure that you get glue in the corners where you fold it over so that that holds your corners down. And sometimes you have a little bit of extra fabric when you turn that corner, so be sure that you fold that in a little bit more so you have a really nice clean edge here. And just press that down. So you're going to let this dry. You can accelerate the drying time by ironing this real quickly, and that helps to set that glue a little bit faster. So the next step on the napkin is to actually cut the Aleene's peel and stick sheets and apply them onto the back of your fabric. For the pumpkins, you just need to use a circle template. And you'll notice that there are two different sides to the peel and stick sheets. There's one that's more of a matte paper and the other side is glossy. What you want to do is be sure that you draw whatever pattern that you have on the glossy side, because that's the side that the adhesive sticks to. If you draw it on the paper side and then you peel that off, you won't have a pattern. I do put the circle pattern onto the peel and stick sheets first because that gives me an idea as to what size fabric I'm going to put it on, what size circle that I need. So just in this particular project, I just went ahead and put that circle onto that glossy side of the paper. So I'm sticking this onto the back side of my fabric. So this is double stick, permanent, no sew, washable adhesive. It's really cool. So you just want to cut along that pattern line. Roughly in a circle, and I say roughly because it really doesn't have to be perfect. The next thing I'm going to do is just take a little bit off the top and bottom to give that more of a pumpkin shape rather than a circle. So go ahead and do that on all of your pieces. And what you have to do is lay them out onto your napkin and decide if you have enough pieces. So I like to do that first. And I'm going to overlap these, so I want to be sure that I've cut enough pieces to be able to fit all the way across. And I have plenty. You'll also notice that I have these up a little bit from the edge because we're actually going to cut along that edge. And so I want to move them up from the edge. So now that I know that I have enough pieces to go along the edge here, what I'm going to do is start removing the paper. I just give it a little bit of a tear, and the fabric doesn't tear, but the paper backing does. So that makes it easier rather than just picking at these in order to try and get that paper off. You know, sometimes when it takes several minutes to try and get the paper to release because you're picking at it, just give it a little tear and that gets it started to help you take that off completely. Now this is very, very sticky. Because the Aleene's peel and stick sheets are no-sew, they're created to be very, very sticky, so keep that in mind and try not to touch them too much while you're trying to place them down. So take all of that paper off and continue to line up your pumpkins. And you notice that I like to turn them just a little bit, gives it a little bit more interest rather than having them all lined up in a row. I'm going to put this one that way. And let's see. I'm going to overlap these a little bit more towards the end here because one is not quite large enough to go all the way to the end, and so I have to overlap two. So once again, just peeling that paper back, and the pumpkin is very sticky. And let's put this up a little bit higher so I get a nice intriguing edge there. And one more to go. Perfect. So now that I have my pumpkins all lined up, I do want to come back and glue down all of the little stems and leaves. And I like to place them out first to decide where I want them. So I'm going to finish laying these out and glue these in place. All of my pumpkins and stems and leaves are now glued onto the fabric, and I used the Aleene's Peel and Stick sheets to do this. Be sure that you rub along the edges of your pumpkins and your stems and the leaves to make sure that they're adhered down firmly along those edges, because the next step, what you're going to do is start cutting along the edge here. So just take your scissors and start following along the pattern of the pumpkins. It doesn't matter if you cut away a little bit of the pumpkin fabric when you're cutting along the edge. And because you use the peel and stick sheets, it's holding the two layers of the fabric together so that it won't fray. I think that just adds a really nice handmade creative touch to the edge of my napkin. At this step, if you wanted to, you could use the tulip dimensional paint if you wanted to outline your designs. I actually like the look of this napkin the way it is, but if you'd like to add other embellishments or paint, any sort of fabric paint technique, that this would be the time to go ahead and do that. So basically your napkin's complete, and what you want to think about is what you might use for your napkin ring. And I was so inspired by Heidi's necklace. I thought that a variation on this would be fabulous for a napkin ring. So I would create a shorter version of her necklace and simply make the ring large enough to loop around my napkin. And I think those rolled fabric beads that coordinate with my little pumpkin patch make a really adorable setting for the table. So don't you think it's a great idea to celebrate every day and have a little themed party?
And be happy.
Be happy. Be
My
happy.
happy necklace.
And I was so happy when I walked into Heidi's studio and she said, "Oh, I have some extra beads. Do you want to use them?" And it's like, yeah.
She didn't just take them.
No.
They were extras.
Right. So it was perfect because it matched with my fabric, which was Heidi's. So I went shopping in Heidi's studio for my project
That's
today.
not very hard to do, though. I think we do that a lot, don't we?
We do. And of course, I was inspired by a tablecloth that you had made for Christmas time that had along the edge of the tablecloth were these beautifully shaped ornaments from fabric. And that's what inspired me to make my little mini version.
But actually what I did on mine, and you don't have to, but I actually outlined it with dimensional paint. And the reason I remember that is because I remember that tablecloth so vividly, because at that time I had a cat that was in my studio, and I had this tablecloth laid out on the ironing board. I had just done all of my dimensional paint on every ornament. She jumped right in the middle of it, and as fast as I could lift her off, I did, and she didn't touch one. She didn't get her paw in one single bit of paint.
Oh
so that is
gosh.
just like my favorite memory of of her in the studio. So that's what's cool that you did that.
What I love about your technique is that if you have a little bit more time to let the paint dry overnight, I'm usually planning my parties at the last minute.
Yes.
So it's like grab my Aleene's peel and stick sheets, put that fabric on, and let's go celebrate.
But that's the cool thing about nowadays too, is that it's a brand new product. It's a fabulous product. It's when we don't have that much time to create, it's quick, it's easy, and it's done.
You know what story we haven't shared yet is, I don't know if you had this same, no, this is a really good story. I don't know if you remember this. Mama Aleene would make us craft gifts for Halloween.
Yes.
So Heidi talked a little bit earlier about Halloween not being her favorite holiday. Well, I remember I would have to sit down and craft, and I'm sure you were involved with this. Because what Mama Aleene made us do is when we would go trick-or-treating, we had to give them a treat. So we'd go to the home, knock on the door, say trick-or-treat. Well, we'd have to give them a treat before they gave us a treat back.
Right. She felt that if they were going to give us something, that we had to treat them and give them something. And so we did. And I think most of the time it was wrapping those hangers.
Yes, you do remember.
Yes. It was wrapping the hangers in that bumpy chenille.
Right.
They're
So
really
what
cool.
we would do is take a wire hanger and bump chenille. I don't know how many people remember that, but chenille stems, but it had a big bump in it. You can probably find it in vintage sales.
Actually, they still sell some of it.
They do.
But it only comes in little pieces, and we used to get it by like 10 yards.
So you would take that and you'd wrap it around the wire hanger. And it was beautiful for nice lingerie.
Right.
And you put little flowers at the little neck of the hanger. Well, how many homes do you go to on Halloween? 25.
And you have to drag all these really cool little things that we're going to give to the people. But so I'm sure they look forward to us every year coming to their house, because we always gave them something to get a candy bar back. It was really cute.
I think it's a really neat tradition. Of course, for us as kids, it's like, oh, Mom, I don't want to have to go craft 50 hangers. But it was a really great way for everyone to celebrate in Halloween.
It taught us something too. We don't just get, we have to give.
I like that.
I do.
That makes me happy. So what we want to do now is go back and let you know what we shared on today's show.
Well, I had my Happy Halloween necklace with all kinds of really cool beads that were made out of fabric and drinking straws. I used flat marbles. I used buttons and beads. Made some tassels for you. Showed you how to make something that's really happy.
And Candace Jedrowitz created an articulated skeleton from polymer clay. It's a great craft project to celebrate Halloween.
She's so creative.
And I used the Aleene's Peel and Stick sheets. Now these are the Fabric Fusion sheets. These are new. And I created a pumpkin decorated napkin, and I reused Heidi's beads to do a napkin ring.
And that's okay. I had plenty extra.
Thanks for crafting for me. We would like to invite you to join us at Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Cool2Craft and check out what's going on at Cool2Craft in our universe. On our Facebook page, we share everything.
Yes, and if you haven't liked us, be sure to like us, because we're likable. Also, go to Cool2Craft.com, because you can find our show plays 24/7. So from today until next week, until we have a new show, you can see this one all day, all night. And also there is tutorials or step outs, the how-to pictures that show how to do it step by step. And lots of other things. Archive shows, if you're looking for any ideas, Cool2Craft is the place to be.
If you're watching this show right now in replay, I really want to invite you to join us Mondays. That's at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, because we live chat with you.
Yes,
and it's so cool because you can ask questions right along with watching the show. And we're actually there for the first 2 runs of the show on Mondays. So we chat for an hour or an hour and a half, depending on how long the shows are. And so we learn a lot from you. And we share with you some hints and tips and advice. And there's a lot of great questions that come up.
There is. It's lots of fun. It's like talking to our best friends.
When you are at Cool2Craft.com, be sure and sign up for our newsletters. Now, first of all, there is the Cool2Craft Babe Crafts newsletter. Now, that comes out on
Tuesdays and Fridays. So don't miss it, because tomorrow tomorrow, if you're watching it live, tomorrow this one comes out. But if you haven't signed up for the newsletter, you're not going to get it.
Right. So go ahead and go to Cool2Craft.com, click on the Cool2Craft Faith Crafts newsletter. That takes you to a sign-up sheet, and so that you can receive that newsletter.
But wait, the Friday one's not the same as the Tuesday one. It's completely different. So you got to sign up for it.
Oh my gosh. But I tell you, each week you're going to get lots of links for great projects. And as Heidi mentioned, on Tuesdays, it's the follow-up to the Monday show. And then on Fridays, it's a whole compilation of a lot of really great projects.
Phew.
I know.
Do you understand all that?
Yes. Did you
watch this again?
I know. Hit the rewind so that you can. What did they say? What was it that they just said? Also, the Cool2Craft Almost Dailies newsletter that comes directly from us. And what we do is we share information behind the scenes and give you little tips and hints. There's Candace Jedris does little tip videos, and
I don't do those.
what I was gonna say, Heidi, what do you do? What do you do? I've been so good at not sharing the behind the scenes bloopers.
I know. I make beads for you.
That's what you do. Yeah. So what I'll ask Heidi to do is say, okay, come up with another project that shows how to use your beads, and we'll put that in Almost Dailies.
Oh, I have to make more beads.
Come on, get excited, be happy.
I'll make it in a different color this time.
Okay. Well, you talked about Mardi Gras and birthdays and Christmas and Valentine's, so we want to see some other colors, and we'll share that in Almost
That'll
Dailies.
be fun.
Okay, pretty cool. And what else do we want to share?
Well, you can always go on Cool2Craft.com or shop Cool2Craft.com and go to the marketplace, because we do have all kinds of things for sale there. And if you're looking for something special that maybe you've seen on the show, send us.
Are you going to be selling this? No, I think she likes it.
Yeah,
there was hesitation.
Yeah, because there might be something that you've seen on the show that's just sitting in our studio that we might sell.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up for today. I don't think there's one more thought that can come out of my head.
I don't think so either.
Get creative.
Be cool.
Get inspired.
And see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.